I'm Andrew Wrigley, and this is our second segment in my video demonstrating how to make a shoe by hand. In this segment, we'll be covering clicking and skiving. So let's begin. Our second segment will deal with clicking and skiving. Well, we have made our pattern, and now we're ready to trace it onto our leather and cut it out and prepare it to be sewn together, which is known as closing. Just a few quick thoughts on the leather you'll be using. The leather for our project shoe is called English Kip, and it's a very beautiful leather. It's made from calf and it's vegetable tanned, which is nice because it's an organic process using tannins that occur naturally, and it doesn't harm the environment, and it doesn't contain anything poisonous. It can also be dyed any color you would like. All of these, I feel, are desirable characteristics. It also is stronger than leather that's been chrome tanned. Chrome tan leather has one advantage: it can be a little easier to work with because it's more pliable, softer, and more elastic. But vegetable tanned leather is more durable than chrome tanned. Chrome tan leather is made from chromium, and it is faster and cheaper to do it that way, but it is poisonous to the environment and possibly even poisonous when in contact with your skin. But 99% of all leathers are tanned with chromium. This is a nice piece of burnished glazed goat skin, and it's chrome tanned, but it's very inexpensive and beautiful and has a lovely smell and is very soft and easy to work with. So I would recommend maybe on your first pair of shoes trying this goat skin rather than using more expensive vegetable tan calf skin, because you'll save money and very likely be pleased with the result. And then when you develop your skills with each pair of shoes, you can move towards progressively more difficult to work with and more expensive leathers. But for the project shoe, we'll be making it out of vegetable tanned English Kip calfskin. We'll be clicking and skiving with these easy to find, inexpensive knives from your local art store or hardware store. The clicking knife will be a regular X-Acto knife with a new blade, and it will work very well. Our skiving knife is a simple utility blade where you can snap off sections of it, and it's quite flexible, which will be useful when we're bending it against the marble slab to get our fine feather edge on the leather. I will, however, post links to websites where you can find professional shoemaking tools. The best knives come from websites in England, and they're not inordinately expensive, but all of these things add up, and I wanted to keep the costs down low and show you how the results that you could achieve with local tools that are inexpensive. So next comes tracing out our pattern onto leather, and you need one of these, which is a silver ink leather pen. The silver ink can be wiped off the leather, and it's easy to see, but it doesn't make an ugly, obvious mark on the leather. So here our leather is laid out on the English Kip in a way that maximizes the use of leather and minimizes waste. Always be sure to use the smoothest, most beautiful parts for the prominent parts of the shoe, the vamp and toe. And be very careful to not waste your leather. Next comes tracing out the pattern and being sure to mark the allowance guidelines. We'll be cutting this out with a regular X-Acto blade against an ordinary design mat called a self-healing mat that takes the blade very well. Always be careful to accurately cut to the inside of your line, since that was placed to the outside of the pattern and is more accurate. So we just go ahead and cut take your time and check to make sure your cuts are going all the way through. And be very careful. You'll notice that even when you do a good clean cut, that there is a little furriness on the nap side of the leather. And what we're going to do is burn that off with a candle, which will give a nice, clean, tight, hard edge to the leather for us to proceed from there. Now, this part of the leather, where there you see these dashes there, those are my guidelines that I made to show where the leather fits together. So this will tell me how far into this piece to place the leather and exactly where to glue it before we start stitching it together. And this piece, this boundary right here, will be going underneath the other leather and is going to get skived to give it a feather edge so that it doesn't create a lump underneath. So I'm going to cut all this out and then we'll go to the next step. Some skiving knives are flexible and some skiving knives are rigid. I'll post some links at the end where you can buy a clicking knife or skiving knives. Alright, now to demonstrate skiving. Skiving is a very important skill that will take you a while to acquire, and it is very important for you to master it so that you can give your shoes a neat appearance. These two pieces of leather, the counter and the vamp, will fit together here, but the problem is where they come together, they're double thickness. So when the leather is when the upper is lasted over the last, it will create a little lump right there, and it will look unsightly. So what we're doing with skiving is giving the leather a gradual feather edge so that there's no perception of where the double thickness occurs. So I recommend that you practice on scraps of leather first to get the hang of it before working on the leather that you just spent time cutting out and making with your patterns. So I'm using a regular, easy to acquire craft knife that has a flexible blade, and making a cut like this. Now, as you can see, that is a rather gradual cut that brings the leather to a sharp feather edge. And this will work. This will eliminate the lump that will be under the leather. Now, I have seen people who are so good at skiving that they can create a very gradual edge that's an inch wide and perfectly uniform as if a machine did it, and the final thinness is thinner than a tissue. So this will get the job done, but there's literally no limit to how good you can become at skiving, and it's something that you will practice and always strive to be better at. But you skive the leather on the side of the nap, and always think twice and cut once, as they say. So put a little, look at your piece for a little bit, and realize which parts will need to be skived and which parts will not, so that you don't accidentally skive the wrong thing. So I'm using a nice sharp new blade. against a smooth piece of marble and making my cuts there. When you get yourself a skiving knife, you can keep it sharp by honing the edge against a strop, a leather strop or a canvas strop with a jeweler's rouge, the way barbers used to do when they were giving people a shave. It's difficult to explain this. This is one of these things that you just have to practice, but basically the blade is on a very narrow angle like this, and you have to get the cut started and then just gently slide the blade across. Some people skive by, you should get the cut started and then it'll kind of give its way and allow the razor to slide through it. And you can use a gentle sawing motion, or you can kind of gradually saw it inward. But you really just have to practice it and get a feel for it. There's no other way to say it. And it can be a little frustrating when you're starting to do it, but it's just something that has to be done. So be aware of where the sharp edge of the blade is and keep your hand out of the way in case you slip. I'm going to finish skiving all of this, and then we'll move on to burning off the edges. Alright, now we're going to burn off the nap of the leather so that we can clean up the edge a little bit. So we do that with a candle, and you just move it very quickly. Don't spend too much time. If you can check it and go back again. But basically, the leather burns like hair very quickly. It's sort of shriveled. The little hairs of the nap will, it's not actually hair, but the little furry hair-like texture of the nap will recede from the flame the way burning hair does. So it's very quick, and you don't want to spend too much time in one place, or you'll scorch your leather. That's all there is to it. Our next video will cover broguing and dyeing of the leather, and then after that will be closing. So, have a good time clicking and skiving. This is Andrew Wrigley, and enjoy your shoe project.